All right, peace, love, and prosperity to all of humanity on planet Earth. This is Abdul Smith Bey for the Wazir for AMPAG, uh, reclaiming the Georgia Territory, Alodia Moorish Parade in Monte, Georgia, which stands for Free Moorish Estates before Georgia, right? Um, so today we'll be talking about another topic, keeping in mind that we closed out the triple principles. So the first video we did was establish your Moorish governments. That represents sovereignty and independence of your state. Then we did integrity of domains, and then we finished off with economic liberty without any inequality. And that's the ultimate goal, right? That's basically decolonization, right? That's us taking back control of the great enterprise. What is the great enterprise? The Empire of Morocco. But in order to take it back, we have to reestablish it. Interesting, huh? And the Wazir Regional Council is going to be the catalyst convention in making this happen. To paint a quick picture, does anyone remember Voltron? That cartoon Voltron? Anyone?
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
Most of you do, then I'll be able to paint the picture. So, Voltron, they were like individual machines, right? Made up of animals like tigers, lions, or whatever. And when they was faced with adversity, they will come together as the arm, the head, the leg, the body, right? They will unify into a robot and become the body of the robot. That's what the Wazir Regional Council is, the convention. Without the convention, we're separate, independent states. When we all accede and sign up to the convention, is when we now become a body. We all come together as one. And it serves as sort of like a shell company, if you will, right? In order to get to any of our state, you have to come through the WRC. You got to deal with the WRC first. It's established for the protection of our states, but also for to govern our states, to vet new states coming online and make sure that we remain in the strict sense locked in with the customary norms of international law and treaty law, right? We all got to move in unison. We need uniformity. We've got to be stepping to the same beat. We all got to be on the same page. We all got to get on the same bus and ride that bus to the final destination. We all got to have the same destination. We all got to have the same mindset. Many in body, right? Many in body, many in one. Well, how does that go? Many in body. Many in mind, one in body. I think it's how many in mind, one in body. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that statement. Out of many, one. Unity. A unified front. And statehood promotes such unity, right? Gone are the days in which we're suffering from confusion, not knowing which way to go, left or right, up or down. Hebrew Israelite, or am I Pan-African? Or am I Olmec? Or am I Cherokee? Or am I Aboriginal? Or am I Egyptian? Or am I Negro? Am I Moorish American? What am I? Interestingly enough, we're familiar with all those terms and forms of identity. But there's one identity that we've never heard or even considered as our own. That word is Moroccan. We've heard everything else. Everything. Never heard Moroccan. And if we did hear Moroccan, it was applied to the pale Arabs who are still in our identity, who live in the kingdom of Morocco, which, by the way, they also stole our flag. They stole the Moorish flag and they stole our nationality. They're the ones who's carrying the nationality. They're the ones who's flying the flag. While we're over here pretending to be Americans, playing these games with ourselves. We're not Americans. And that's the point of this class, is to clarify with further reference points that we're not Americans. Which means then we're not Moorish Americans either. But we've been sold out. And I'm going to identify today one of the, for the record, and with facts, not conjecture, no type of personal opinion, actual facts of one of the evil culprits who sold us out once upon a time here in Morocco. Let's get started with something here. Let me begin sharing the screen. Let's go here. I had a more on Facebook present this treaty, this particular version of the treaty from the National Archives as reference point to prove his point that we're Moorish Americans. Moors, Taj Tariq Bey said it before several times, brilliantly. Moors don't know how to read, and those who can read won't. This is a famous Taj Tariq Bey quote, and it's absolutely true. Moors can't read. The title here says the Moroccan-American Treaty of Peace and Friendship. His interpretation was Moroccan-American meaning Moorish American, so it's the Moorish American, Moroccan-American treaty with the United States. This is how he interpreted this. And it's egregious. There's two nations. The Moroccan, which is Morocco, and American, which is the United States of America. And we all know about the famous speech from Obama, who said that Morocco was the country that recognized the United States as a sovereign nation. That's what he said. Hillary Clinton and many others. They live behind that. They live on those treaties, or on that treaty. Well, those treaties, because there's two of them, 1787 and 1836. So if it's a contract and one party of the contract is Morocco, i.e. Moroccans, and the other one is the United States of America, i.e. United Americans, how are you Moorish American? How are you American? There's two parties here. The two parties are two countries, two signatory powers, two states. Morocco, who has the dominant position in the contract, the landlord, and the United States of America, the subordinate position, the tenant. This is too easy. But what I've been seeing, based on what I've been seeing on social media and people that I've talked to, I felt compelled to try to come with more reference points to show and prove the point and the fact and the truth that we are not Americans, man. We are Moroccans, period. Are you Cherokee? Yes. But that's your tribal identity, your tribal affiliation. What is your national name? What is your political identity? What are you known as internationally, politically? Moroccan, or Moor, Cherokee Moor. Prophet Noble Jew Ali was a Cherokee. He didn't even represent that identity. He represented the national identity, the political identity, which is the Moor, Moroccan. Anyone who has their one-on-ones, I challenge you to look at question 31. And for those who don't have it,
Islam, brother, you breaking up.
About now, y'all hear me well?
Yeah,
No.
it's going in and out, brother. It's like your signal's going in and out.
All right.
Also, while you're fixing that, I just want to interject for the rest of the listeners. Another thing that we've forgotten is symbology. So if you look at what's shown on the screen, you will see in between Morocco and American is a hyphen. So in symbology, that was known as either equal to or less than. That deals with that geometry, that knows about algebra, you know, A plus B equals C squared. So you look for those symbologies because those symbologies also tell, you know, what they say to history. Now, yeah.
Islam, I wanted to interject something to that as well. So I put one of those the first time I changed my name. I did it the incorrect way. And I put one of those. And they said it didn't make it one word. It was two separate things. So it's not, they're not combined though. So that's how they told me they're not combined.
Yeah.
So now I had two last names. But you know what I mean, just it being Bay, and I was trying to separate it but keep it because my kids still had it, so I was trying to keep that one. But I was like, no, you got to drop it all the way, period. But that line means Moroccans and the Americans.
Yeah, it's a
So
separation.
it's two different things. It's a separation. Yeah,
That's exactly right. And but see, when you see Moorish American, that's how they spell it a lot of times is with that hyphen. It's like Moorish American, they're two separate nations. Like you're just two separate nations.
But they're telling the script, but it's for those that can see between the lines, you know.
Right. But you know, what I'm saying is you're identifying as two separate nations at one time. Whereas according to Article 15, your obligation is to choose between the entire submission. You have to choose one of the two. You can't be both. We're just total Moorish Americans, as I once was, we were just way out of line. So I forgot what I was saying in the process of trying to fix the volume. Can you guys hear me better now? Can you all hear me better? Okay. Wonderful.
Islam.
Hey, bro.
Bro.
All right. So what we'll do now is we're just gonna go ahead and get into this read real quick. And we're gonna start with the preamble. Very interesting preamble. Is there someone that could read the preamble for me real quick? And start from the top. The title.
Islam. The Moroccan Treaty. The Moroccan American Treaty of Peace and Friendship, 28th of June, 1786. The Moroccan Treaty of Peace and Friendship. In the name of the Almighty. 28th of June, 1786. This is a treaty of peace and friendship established between us and the United States of America.
Between who?
Us.
Who are they talking about? Who is us?
In propria persona, the proper people.
The proper people in propria persona, the Moroccans, right?
Islam.
And then who is the other party?
The United States Corporation Company.
Well, no, that's incorrect. More accurately is the United States of America de jure. That's the de jure government because it's the signatory power. The corporation company comes for 1871, right? The Act of Congress.
Correct.
So that's the Republic. So basically what you're telling me is before you
interjection, brother, if I may say quickly, I think it's both correct and incorrect. And this is my reasoning. Originally, when they came as Virginia Corporation and Northwest Corporation. They merged and became United States of America Major. 1871, they become United States of America Minor, which is predominantly corporation, especially in 1938 with the case law. Forgive me, I can't remember the case law off the top of my head right now. Right,
Erie Railroad.
Yes, exactly. Thank you very much. So, in essence, it was, a corporation from the initial stage of them coming when there were two different corporate entities merging to become now the United States of America Church and Colony Major.
And reference behind that would be actually the Judiciary Act of 1789, which actually erratified all actual judges that were actually holding any post. But you know, that's
Right.
you know,
Well,
so that's what
so
it's known
so the United States of America major is the signatory power. That's the de jure republic. That's the major. Right.
correct. So
Right. So that's the
Islam.
so the point is that the signatory power is the United States of America major. That's the point. Not anyone else. The United States of America, anything else minor, corporation, they're acting as a trust, as a power of attorney on behalf of the United States of America. They're in a shallow, the United States of America Republic is in a shallow grave alongside, right next to the Empire of Morocco. They both got a tombstone right there next to each other. They both buried in a shallow grave in the West. And it's our job to resuscitate, bring back out, because see, okay, so there's 3 ruffians who came at Hiram Abiff, hit him in the head, knocked him unconscious, buried him in a shallow grave in the West. Why am I repeating that Masonic allegory? Because when he got hit in the head, the allegory doesn't say that it killed Hiram Abiff, did it? It just simply knocked him unconscious. So that means that Hiram Abiff was always alive. We are Hiram Abiff. Morocco, the Empire of Morocco is Hiram Abiff. We've always been alive. We were just knocked unconscious.
Wizard of Oz.
Exactly. And the international law and treaty, our treaty laws, is what we were using as a defibrillator, if you will, to bring us back to consciousness. So what I was saying, however, with this preamble, if you read the treaty, before you even get to the first article, you already identify the party or the 2 parties. It's a bilateral treaty. It's a bilateral contract. It's 2 parties, us, Morocco, and them, the United States of America. Right there, first line. Continue, brother.
Which is confirmed and which we have ordered to be written in the book and sealed with our royal seal at our court of Morocco.
Stop right there. I mean, what else do Moors need? Please read that again, brother. And put a little bit more emphasis in those key words that you were already putting emphasis on.
Which is confirmed and which we have ordered to be written in this book and sealed with our royal seal at our court of Morocco.
Thank you very much. Our royal seal at our royal courts, our royal seal at our courts of Morocco. We, us. So, I mean, like, if you're the Americans, then who are the Moroccans? Who are the people that's claiming us, we, our royal seal in our courts? I think it would be smart for you to take the dominant side, keeping in mind that we already know that this is Al-Maghrib Al-Aqsa, which it doesn't stand for America of the farthest west. It stands for Morocco of the farthest west. Why are we playing games? Continue, brother.
On the 25th day of blessed month of Shaban in the year 1200, trusted in God, it will remain permanent.
Islam. That's the preamble. Any questions on that? Is anyone doubting that that we are the Moroccans, the ones with the royal seal at our court of Morocco? Like, Moors, we really got to do a little bit better. I know the indoctrination is what it is, but I mean, it's not too difficult to break out of it just with reference points.
Can I speak up, dude, please?
Yes.
I think like a lot of constitutional, right, like principles, a lot of Moors don't understand it. Like as you were speaking, like if I'm gonna look at this contract, I need to know if it's treaty, I know it's a multilateral, a bilateral, or a unilateral contract. And I know those contracts only exist between states. So like, if you understand that, it's nothing else to even, know. Okay, you had the United States of America, and who is this other state? It has to be Morocco. So, just
Right.
those type of principles, I feel like they just kind of miss a little bit. That throws them off to where, but we don't even know it's just Morocco. It's the United States.
Right.
But with that, I yield.
And that's one of the concerns. And here's the reference point for that. Brother, could you put, so this is, someone has to mute their mics, please. Not sure who it is. So this is the International Court of Justice. Report of judgment, advisory opinions, and orders. Brother, do me a favor. Could you please read that title and place the emphasis that you be placing on things?
Reports of judgments, advisory, opinions, and orders, case concerning rights of nationals of the United States of America in Morocco, France versus United States of America, judgment of August 27th, 1952.
So if anyone has doubts, well, this is a court document from the International Court of Justice, not a dictionary, right? Not a book from some foremost scholar. These are judges, 15 of them. And they're telling you right there in the title that the United States of America is in Morocco. As is confirmed, that's just a reaffirming the fact based on this right here, the treaty that we're reading. Brother, go ahead with Article 1. Look at the language in here. We're just looking for we're looking for specific language that's identifying two different parties. Go ahead, brother.
Article 1. We declare that both parties have agreed that this treaty, consisting of 25 articles, shall be inserted in this book and delivered to the Honorable Thomas Barkley, the agent of the United States, now at our courts, with whose appropriations it has been made and who is duly authorized on their part to treat with us concerning all matters contained therein.
Period. So the Honorable Thomas Barclay, the agent of the United States, who's currently at our court, must report everything back to us because they are in a protectorate status. They are the tenants. What does Article 2 say?
Article 2. If either of the parties shall be at war with any nation whatsoever, the other party shall not take a commission from the enemy nor fight under their colors.
Right? So we protect you, you watch our back. We at war with a nation, you either on our side or you remain neutral, but you can't be on their side and vice versa. Right? It's forgot the term that's used, but it's based on reciprocity, right? Whatever the provision is saying that you must do, we must also do. I forgot what that term is. But as you see here, the first article says both parties. The second article says if either of the parties. So it's constantly talking about two separate parties. So if you're a Moorish American, then you're both parties. Well, you can't be the landlord and the tenant. Article 3, bro. Come on.
Article 3. If either of the parties shall be at war with any nation whatsoever, and take a prize belonging to that nation, and there shall be found on board subjects or effects belonging to either of the parties, the subject shall be set at liberty, and the effects returned to the owners. And if any goods belonging to any nation with whom either of the parties shall be at war shall be loaded on vessels belonging to other parties, that shall pass free and unmolested without any attempts being made to take or detain them.
Continue. Article 4.
Article 4. A signal or pass shall be given to all vessels belonging to both parties, by which they are to be known when they meet at sea. And if the commander of the ship of war of either party shall have other ships under his convoy, the declaration of the commander shall alone be sufficient to exempt any of them from examination.
Peace and friendship, right? We're in peace and friendship. Continue though. We're looking for a specific language. Go ahead, bro.
Article 5. If either of the parties shall be at war and shall meet a vessel at sea belonging to the other, it is agreed that if an examination is to be made, it shall be done by sending a boat with 2 or 3 men only. And if any gun shall be fired and any injuries done without reason, the offending party shall make good all damages.
All right. Go to 6.
Article 6. If any more shall bring citizens of the United States.
Okay, stop right there. So are you a citizen of the United States or are you a Moor?
Or more.
I mean, I don't understand why we have this confusion. I mean, it's right there. Go ahead, brother. If any more.
If any more shall bring citizens of the United States or their effects to his majesty, the citizen shall immediately be set at liberty and the effects restored. And in like manner, if any more, not a subject of these dominions, shall make prize of any of the citizens of America or their effects and bring them into any of the ports of his majesty, they shall be immediately released, as they will then be considered under his majesty's protection.
Okay. So earlier I was trying to determine the term when I was saying what one side, what the provisions say for one party on one side, it would be the same for the other. What I was referring to is right here in Article 6, in like manner, right? So the treaties are always written in like manner. So, however, here, now we're talking about all prior to this, we were talking about two parties, if either party, if that party, either party is, right? Both parties. Now it's even specifying the parties even more, they're making the parties even more clear. Moors, if any more, shall bring a citizen of the United States or their effects to his majesty. Then the other one says, if any more, not a subject of these dominions. What does that mean, right? If any more, not a subject of these dominions. That's a very interesting sentence there. Because if that more is not a subject to those dominions, then what dominions would he be subjects to? Perhaps they're referring to Moorish subjects. I'm not sure. That would it would be great to find out the answers to that.
That's a duality, actually. We're talking about jurisdiction. So it's not really dealing with the land, but the dominion is the dominion, but there's 2 operative parties that has 2 clear, distinct jurisdictions, how they operate.
Which means that it could potentially be a Moorish subject.
Correct.
And then it goes on to say that any of the citizens of America. So who are the citizens of America? The Americans. So the only way we became Americans and citizens and all this stuff is through the Naturalization Act and the 14th Amendment. On paper, with the pen. They use the pen to turn us into Americans, right? And they've been promoting that as so for the past 200 years, with the pen. There was use of force involved, but it primarily is the pen. The pen mobilizes militaries and police. Everything starts with the pen. So the Naturalization Act of what, 1871?
Islam.
And then the go ahead.
Amended 1870, Islam.
Right. And then the 14th Amendment, you know what I'm saying? Like, which amended the word subject out of the Constitution and which left only citizens, because it was citizens or subjects. That's what it said. Subject was omitted. and we became just citizens. Why did that happen? Because they didn't want us to know who we were and that we had our actual jurisdiction in any civil or criminal matters was through consular court. They wanted you to petition the Supreme Court. They wanted you under their jurisdiction, under their civil and criminal jurisdiction through their courts. So they turn us into citizens, American citizens. That's why the Treaty of Madrid came out in 1880, 9 years after the Naturalization Act, which we'll touch on that real quick. Anyway, brother, go ahead. Let's see. Yes.
That's where a lot of.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that is definitely where a lot of confusion lies right there in regards to that definition of American, and people not really analyzing what it's saying versus applied to, and people calling themselves that. So that's where a lot of confusion.
Islam.
I just wanted to add that. I yield.
Appreciate that. Go to Article 8. What Article 8 say, brother? Let's skip to Article 8.
Now, just to add on to that last question, the question I don't think is asked. I'm sorry, somebody got a mute. Somebody got a mute.
Somebody got a mute, please.
Really?
Somebody mute, please. All right, brother, go ahead.
Yeah, with the question with the term America, when did that term first arise, over here on this continent? That's the question. That word didn't come around till 1700s.
Right.
Yes, a modern term.
It's a modern term. It was not a colonized word, or the colonies wasn't utilizing those words or collectively coming underneath those quote unquote bands of association. That wasn't established until, considered their Declaration of Independence, which they still was in their colonies. It wasn't until the enfranchisements of the Articles of Association that brought them into that perpetual union.
That's right.
So you say Article 8, you said, brother?
Yes.
Okay, Article 8, as we continue. If any vessel of the United States shall meet with a disaster at sea and put into one of our ports to repair, she shall be at liberty to land and reload her cargo without paying any duties whatsoever.
So we're gonna give you that. If you got a problem with your ship, you put it into our ports, we're gonna fix it, no duties, no charge. But I like how you emphasize the word she. The ship represents a she.
Correct.
Female, feminine. Jordan Maxwell broke that down as it relates to the birth certificate. We ain't gonna get into that. But if any vessels of the United States of America, it's the United States of America, i.e. Americans. Right? So we're examining that language there. It's clear as hell. What else do you want me to say? Our ports. So if the Americans, if the ships or the vessels that belong to the Americans pull into our ports, two parties. We wrote the contract. We wrote the treaty. Same thing, basically, in Article 9. Go ahead with that one, please.
Article 9. If any vessel of the United States shall be cast on shore on any part of our coast, she shall remain at the disposition of the owners, and no one shall attempt going near her without their approbation. I'm sorry, I apologize. As she is then considered particularly under our protection. And if any vessel of the United States shall be forced to put into our ports by stress or weather or otherwise, she shall not be compelled to land her cargo, but shall remain in tranquility until the commander shall think proper to proceed on his voyage.
Peace and friendship, diplomacy, right? But look at the language. Our ports, our coast. Talking about she, and who is she? Their vessels, the United States vessels, which is the United States of America, which are the Americans. Mufti Ali, brother, are you on the line, bro? Islam, brother, you on the line? Yes, I
I'm on the
figured you
line.
were on the
Can you
line. Could
hear me
you?
pretty good?
Yes, we could hear you. Could you please remind the floor what Prophet Noble Ali said about the time frame in which the Moorish flag been flying over here?
About 10,000 years old.
Yeah, right.
You know, the first one said over 50,000
Right.
years.
Gotta let you in.
Right, I remember that. 10,000, 50,000, that's ancient. It was definitely much older than anything American in the Star Spangled Banner, which we already know it's a banner, but it still represents the Americans. That's their flag. We got our flags, the Moorish flag. So the Moorish flag or the Moroccan flag, the flag of the Empire of Morocco, has been flying over here for over. Can somebody mute their mics, please? Or we have problems with the muting of the mics. And also my train of thought. So if our flag's been flying over here, the Empire of Morocco flag has been flying over here for 10,000 years. Then where do we get this nonsensical idea that we're Americans? Because we know that the flag has been flying over here for 10,000 years. And oh, by the way, we fly the flag. But you know what's interesting is on the documents, on the right, on the writs and affidavits, the documents, the way they fly the flags is representative to what they call themselves. So you'll have the Moorish flag, the Moroccan flag at the top left, and the United States flag, the American flag on the top right, i.e. Moorish American. You know, like, you can't be both flags. You either Moroccan, you're American. You can't be the Lakers and the damn Cleveland Cavaliers. It's too easy, Morris.
While you're doing that, I also have a question.
I can't even tell who it is. Anyhow, I'll deal with it until somebody figure it out. All right, so let's see. Where were we? Article 10.
Can we also touch on, the language in the term when it talks about vessels?
Right, go ahead, brother.
That's another thing I notice Moors get kind of drawn into, thinking it's just dealing with maritime when we're talking about vessels and ports, not knowing that the mother and that port and the form of naturalization, even though it's not done under any type of act or constitution, it's still within the parameters of the treaty, meaning that if, a merchant or a wife of a United States citizens have a child, that if they pursue to go back to Europe or wherever they choose to, that, they have that free will. And not only that, they have the right to declare that nationality or that status that comes within, those constitutional principles.
Islam, you too. Islam, good brother. Appreciate that interest, that point of interest. Great points.
I have another question.
Yes.
Islam. Roz Bay.
Islam,
Could you
brother.
please go on mute?
No, he's talking. It wasn't him.
Oh, okay.
No, he's part of the conversation. It was Ben. I already identified it, and I muted him. It was Ben snoring and sleeping. All right. That's why you couldn't hear me. I muted him. All right, good brother. Let's go to 21.
Article 21. If a citizen of the United States shall kill or wound a Moor, or on the contrary, if a Moor shall kill or wound a citizen of the United States, the law of the country shall take place and equal justice shall be rendered. The counsel assisting at the trial, and if any delinquent shall make his escape, the consul shall not be answerable for him in any manner whatsoever.
So Article 6 and Article 21 specifically identify the parties. So, okay, fair enough. It doesn't say Moroccan, but it's the Morocco Treaty. So clearly Morocco Moor, you can even spell Morocco without the word Moor. The first three letters is Moor. If any citizen of the United States of America, that's one party, shall kill or wound a Moor, the other party, Americans and Moors or Moroccans. Period. But let's touch on one of the main articles that the ICJ pointed out during the case. That would be Article 20. Read Article 20 real quick, please. I don't know why I skipped it.
Article 20. If any of the citizens of the United States or any persons under their protection shall have any disputes with each other, the consul shall decide between the parties, and whenever the consul shall require any aid or assistance from our government to enforce his decision, it shall be immediately granted to him.
Our government. And this is Dred Scott. And this is what we this treaty is what we invoke. This provision is what we invoke in many of our consular court documents. If any of the citizens of the United States or any persons under their protection, who are the persons under their protection? Moorish subjects. So what you're looking at here is citizen of the United States. That was what was that guy's name? John Sanford. And the person under their protection was Dred Scott. Dred Scott petitioned the Supreme Court. That's why he was found as plaintiff in error. So why was he found as plaintiff in error? Because if there was a dispute between those two parties, who was supposed to preside over the case? The consul. The consul shall decide between the parties. And whenever the consul shall require any aid, whenever the consul shall require any aid or assistance from our government to enforce his decision, it shall be immediately granted to him. What is the aid from our government? Legislation to back up consular court. So Dred Scott was supposed to petition consular court, not the Supreme Court, but he didn't know that, right? We were in a dark state, right? Coming out of slavery, whatever. So we didn't know that we were supposed to petition consular court. But if we were to find out about that, the game would have been over a long time ago, because we would have found out about it eventually. Oh, we're subjects and we're supposed to petition consular court and the Moroccan Empire. Oh, keeping in mind that this was the case all the way up until 1956. We still had the ability to petition consular court all the way through the 30s, the 20s, the 40s. Why am I saying that? Because the empire was still in existence with the branches of government, the three branches of government, the Moxen, and consular court was still here through the United States. What's the point that I'm making? Okay. The Sultan became king, promoted himself to becoming a king of the Kingdom of Morocco in 1956 to gain independence from France in the Treaty of Fez. So he said, okay, I'll just create a modern state, call it the Kingdom of Morocco, and that's what he did. What else happened in 1956, Morse? We all know this one.
Relinquishment of extraterritorial jurisdiction of the United States at Morocco.
Well, that was the bill.
Yeah, the act was passed.
What was that?
That bill was passed by Congress, but it wasn't signed by the president.
Right, but that's not what I'm referring to.
Islam, you talking about the creation of the kingdom, brother?
No, I've already spoke on that. That's one of the things that took place in 1956, when the empire was vacated, because now there's no empire to go seek remedy from through consular court, right? Since 1956, because it was vacated and he became the king of the kingdom. But there was something else also that happened in 1956 dealing with consular court. Eisenhower shut down consular court.
Correct.
In 1956. Why? There was no need for it anymore. The Sultan then became king. There's no more government for the empire. The empire's in a shallow grave. These Moors don't even know about it. They're conquered, so hell, let's just shut it down. Keeping in mind that it wasn't even being used the whole time anyway, because the Moors had already been conquered. How were they conquered? They were brought into the mindset of being citizens of America, American citizens, instead of being Moorish subjects who were supposed to petition consular court from the Moroccan Empire.
Interjection.
Go ahead.
So I wanted to touch on resolution number 75.
Who's speaking?
Because I'm sorry.
I said, who's speaking?
Oh, Amara Bay.
Oh, Islam sister.
Is
Yes.
Is it showing up? Because I'm on my computer now, and I'm not sure it is.
What are you talking about? You're looking for resolution 75?
No,
Oh, are you showing up? Oh, I can't tell from my end because all I can see is the screen.
Okay.
I can't see anyone.
Okay, it's okay. So I wanted to touch on it because now I think I'm reading it with new understanding. Because I know there's been something that I was introduced to a long time ago, and I didn't quite understand it at the time. But now when I'm reading it, it's saying that basically we have become American citizens. And now I'm like, wow, that slipped past me. And it said basically we journeyed here from the plains of Morocco. And this says this society has done much to bring about a thorough absorption by these people of those principles which are necessary to make them good American citizens. That was very.
Don't forget the part that says former Moors.
Oh.
Okay, Moors. Okay, time out. Let me interject here real quick, sister. You're ahead of me.
Oh, sorry.
No. It's wonderful. I'm laughing because it's just glorious. It's just telling me that this class is right on time. So here's what I need you to do, sister. Hold your thought, hold your question.
Okay.
That's part of the lesson. We will get to resolution 75. All right.
Okay. Are you?
Islam. All right. So where was that? So yeah, so that's what Article 20 is talking about. Right. So what they do, they amended the Constitution, took the word subject out of there so they could make us citizens. They enacted the Naturalization Act. It's all been done through legislation. It's all been done through the pen. And then, obviously through miseducation, that's still the pen. Right? Media influence, movies, that's still the pen. They had us believing that we came from Africa, for crying out loud. That's why we didn't consider Consular Court or the Empire of Morocco, because we thought we came from Africa. Up until the explosion on YouTube with brothers like Tashariq Bey that was promoting the Moorish identity. And then from there, now we started not just the Moorish identity, but also the fact that we were Aboriginal and indigenous to quote unquote America. Not Morocco, America. Even though from time to time he'll mention Morocco. That's where I learned that this was Morocco from him. But still, the Moors were pushing, not just time, all the Moors were pushing that we are Americans. So then that movement got twisted, and it became, we're not Moors. We're just Aboriginal Americans. We're just Indians, rejecting the Moorish identity, keeping in mind that the only reason why that they came to that realization is because of the Moors. Though it was a misconcept because we're not Americans. This is Morocco. I think that would be good enough for the Treaty of Peace and Friendship that's between who? The Moroccans and the Americans. If it was
Islam, brother. Hey, brother Mufti Watson Ali, can you yield your mic, brother? Appreciate it.
Islam.
Before you move off of the treaty, I have a quick question on it.
Yes.
When it says ports, those ports would also be considered what's known as like Mexico and South America as well as islands, correct?
I don't hear you well. Hold on a second. Let me go to my phone. I might be able to hear you better through my phone.
Correct. Well, there are the
say it again,
dominions of
bro.
the Moroccan Empire.
Say it again.
at the time of this treaty, that would still, when it mentions ports, that would also include what's known as like Mexico, South American, and the adjoining islands, correct?
All the ports.
Port.
Morocco is the world. So yes, to answer your question, yes, good brother. Yes, indeed. All the ports. We controlled all the ports, we controlled the 7 seas, controlled everything. So if this was a Moorish American treaty, then it would say the Moroccan American treaty between with the United States or something. The word United States would be there somewhere alongside Moroccan American, but it's not. There's 2 nations, Morocco and America. So it's not Moorish American or Moroccan American as an identity. It's Moroccans and the Americans. That's what the hyphen is there for. How do we prove further that these are 2 nations? Okay, well, we got this right here. Letter from George Washington to Sidi Muhammad, 1789. Brother, you want to go ahead and read that for me, please? Or if you're tired of reading, I can take over.
No, Islam, brother. I was trying to unmute. To Sadi Muhammad, New York. Sidi. Sadi
Yeah, okay.
Muhammad, New York, 1 December 1789. Since the date of the letter which the last Congress by their president addressed to your Imperial Majesty, the United States of America has thought proper to change their government and to institute a new one, agreeable to the Constitution, of which I have honored or herewith enclosed a copy.
Hold on 1 second, pause. Okay.
So
come on.
But that goes back to what I was just telling you about the Judiciary Act of 1789. That's what they're really talking about right there, which is that new Congress.
Mm-hmm. And that's fine, but that's not the point. You know what the point is. You know exactly what the point is.
Gotcha.
Right? So it says, so that since the date of the letter, which the late Congress, by their president, addressed to your Imperial Majesty, the United States of America, have thought proper. United States of America, the Americans, they thought proper to change their government to institute a new one agreeable to the Constitution, of which I have the honor of herewith enclosing a copy. So let's examine a few things. He's talking to the Sultan of Morocco as the United States of America. Correct? All right. So that identifies the 2 parties, Morocco and America. We know this letter. This letter has been brought to our attention over the years on social media through the Moorish movement, but we didn't pick up on that. Moors don't know how to read. I didn't even recognize it myself. And it's not even necessarily that we don't know how to read, is that you're reading it with the wrong concepts. Let's put it that way. You've already been misguided and you're reading it with the wrong, with misconcepts. When you correct your concepts by learning international law, you start seeing it the proper way now. But further, what did he do with that Constitution? He enclosed a copy to deposit it with the Sultan. So he ratified, deposited, and promulgated his Constitution with the Sultan. The Sultan was a depository. All the way till today, those instructions still stand as law. That's why we can say that international law is really Moroccan law. There's nothing on planet Earth that's not Moorish or Moroccan. We started it all. Everything. Again, we fell asleep. We were knocked unconscious, buried in a shallow grave. We forgot our history. We forgot our culture. We forgot our divine creed. That's why Prophet Noble Drew Ali was so instrumental in even us establishing our states today, 100 plus years later. Continue, brother.
The time necessary employed in this odious task and the derangements occasioned by so great, though peaceable, a revolution will apologize and account for your majesty not having receiving those regular advices and marks of attention from the United States, which the friendship and magnanimity of your conduct towards them afforded reason to expect.
Okay. So he is, what did he say? Will apologize and account for your majesty's not having received those regular advices and marks of attention. Taxes. He hadn't been paying taxes for a while. So he apologized. I'm sorry, landlord. The first paragraph of this letter tells you, you can read George Washington's subordinate position. Great and magnanimous friend. Yeah, okay, continue, brother. The United States.
The United States having unanimously appointed me to the supreme executive authority in this nation, your majesty's letter of the 17th August, 1788, which by reason of the dissolution of the late government remains unanswered, has been delivered to me. I have also received the letter which your imperial majesty has been so kind as to write in favor of the United States to the Bashars of Tunis and Tripoli, and I present to you the sincere acknowledgments and thanks of the United States for this important mark of your friendship for them.
Islam. So, what was it? The United States having unanimously, so we know that he wasn't the first president, right? In this nation, your majesty's letter, see the letters which are, okay, so he's apologized, that's what I was looking for. So not only did he miss his payments to the Sultan, but he also let a few letters here go unanswered. He didn't answer some of these letters that he was receiving from the Sultan, asking questions. Again, it's proven his subordinate position in Morocco. Continue.
We greatly regret that the hostile deposition of those regencies towards this nation who have never injured them is not to be removed on terms in our power to comply with within our territories. There are
pause right there. We greatly regret that the hostile disposition of those regencies towards this nation who have never injured them is not to be removed on terms in our power to comply with. What is he talking about there? What hostile disposition of those regencies? This line, this sentence is talking about when the Moors were at war with the colonists over here, taxing them on sight, seizing their ships on the Atlantic Ocean, putting them in slavery, all kind of stuff. And that's what he's saying. We greatly regret that the hostile disposition of those regencies towards this nation who have never injured them is not to be removed. So even with those injuries that they're bringing upon you, you can't remove them. You can't do nothing about it. You're in their dominions. And so when we complain about the injustice that we're dealing with, it's really karma. What goes around comes around. So we were mistreating them during this time period. And when they found an opportunity, because even during that time period, we were warring with each other. We were warring with everybody. It was a mess over here. There was no love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. We were already spiraling out of control. That's how come we were easily subjugated. With the help of our own people, by the way. That's how we was easily conquered, I should say. Right? And so now that we've been conquered by them through the use of the pen, by denationalizing us and Americanizing us, turning us into citizens, and then from there be able to do what they have done, keeping in mind that it was based in treaty rights, and I'll point out what treaty it is. We can't complain. We know that there was white slavery going on here by us, enslaving them. Then the clock of destiny just continued ticking away. And we ended up in slavery. We ended up with the injustice. We ended up with the mistreatment, only to come back and take back the world. And that was necessary so that now we have that pain point to always refer back to know, man, we don't want to go back to that again. So then what do you do to not go back to that again? You have to remain in peace, love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Do unto others as you want done to you. You didn't like poverty? Don't impoverish people. You didn't like slavery? Don't enslave people. You didn't like injustice? Well, then be just with the world. That's the answers to the test as far as us being able to maintain the empire, right, for eternities to come. We would have to remain in the spirit of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Treat others as you want to be treated. We didn't like how we were treated, so then don't treat others the way you treated them in the first place. I hope that makes sense. So I'll continue, brother, finishing up that sentence or paragraph.
Within our territories, there are no mines either of gold or silver, and this young nation, just recovering from the waste and desolation of a long war, has not as yet had time to acquire riches by agriculture and commerce, but our soil is bountiful and our people industrious, and we have reason to flatter ourselves that we shall gradually become useful to our friends.
During this time, there was in the 13 colonies, which is the East Coast. So now you understand the whole concept behind the gold rush, when they were allowed to expand further west, and they went straight to Cali and all those areas and started digging up mines and getting gold because they didn't have anything over here. Continue. The encouragement.
The encouragement which the Majesty has been pleased generously to give to our commerce with your dominions.
Our commerce with whose dominions?
With your dominions.
Yeah, continue.
The punctuality with which you have caused the treaty with us to be observed, and the just and generous measures taken in the case of Captain Proctor made a deep impression on the United States and confirmed their respect for and attachments to your Imperial Majesty.
They're attached to His Imperial Majesty, which means they're attached to Morocco, which means they're attached to us. And there's no more Sultan nor Imperial Majesty or Emperor. He is now the King of Morocco, and the Empire of Morocco is void of a government. So when we bring it back online, who are they now attached to? Our Moroccan government, our Moroccan states. As subjects, really. These are our dominions. These are our dominions. So here you have the American talking to the Moroccan about the matters dealing with their commerce in Morocco. This is too easy, Morris. You can continue.
It gives me the pleasure to have this opportunity of assuring your Majesty that while I remain at the head of this nation, I shall not cease to promote every measures that may conduce to the friendship and harmony which so happily subsists between your empire and them, and shall esteem myself happy in every occasion of convincing your majesty of the highest sense, which in common with the whole nation, I entertain of the magnanimity, wisdom, and benevolence of your majesty.
Keep going.
In the course of the approaching winter, the national legislature, which is called by the former name of Congress, will assemble, and I shall take care that nothing be omitted that may be necessary to cause or correspondence between our countries to be maintained and conducted in a manner agreeable to your majesty and satisfactory to all the parties concerned in it. May the Almighty bless your imperial majesty, our great and magnanimous friend, with his constant guidance and protection, written at the city of New York, the 1st day of December, 1789.
In the course of the approaching winter, the national legislature, which is called by the former name of Congress, will assemble, and I shall take care that nothing be omitted that may be necessary to cause the correspondence between our countries to be maintained and conducted in a manner agreeable to your majesty. Yet again, apologizing for missing those letters, for not responding to those letters, and the marks of attention, etc. So, I mean, he's closing out the letter, kissing his butt. May the Almighty bless your imperial majesty, our great and magnanimous friend, with his constant, what? Guidance and protection. They're here under a protectorate status. They're being protected by our Moroccan governments. They owe us an allegiance. And in exchange for that privilege, they have to pay taxes. Two countries. So didn't say it, but we will get to the letter that says it. But it's two separate countries. But this letter here is very germane to the conversation, because you can't, after reading this letter, you can't sit here and tell me that you're a Moorish American, that you're both the Moroccans and the Americans. The Americans are citizens of the United States. Period. So if you claim that you're an American, then that means that you're telling the world that you're an American citizen. Okay, well, good luck with that. Stop complaining about the laws that's being imposed against you then, bro. Because you're taking a jurisdiction while simultaneously telling them that they don't have any jurisdiction. Now you see why they put us in psychological evaluations? Like, dude, you crazy. You're telling me that you're not American, but then you're saying that you're Moorish American, and then you're saying that you have no jurisdiction, but then you're enforcing our Constitution. Oh my God. You guys are a hot mess. Sovereign citizens. You guys are harassing us, putting liens on us. They're frivolous. And I mean that with due respect, because the civic Moors are warriors. I was a civic Moor. Only a warrior would withstand the blows that you take in these courts and be willing to go at them, demonstrate to keep the demons straight. That was the motto. You got to demonstrate to keep the demons straight. Yeah, that's true, but not with those incompetent processes. The way you demonstrate to keep the demons straight is establish your 3 branches of government. Ratify your Constitution, deposit it, and promulgate it. Enforce consular court orders on them. That's the move. As a collective within a state government, not as individuals doing whatever. Everybody got a whole bunch of different processes. You got the Washita process, you got the Philly process, you got the RB Bay process, you got all types of processes. That's why I said we got to get on one mind, one bus, one final destination. You got to stop the confusion. So then to stop that, what's the supreme law of the land? The treaties. Okay, great. Now let's go and see what the treaties say. Since we already know that the treaty is the supreme law of the land. Let's go see what the treaties say. Let's find out. And let's follow those instructions. So here we got another letter from George Washington, and I'm not sure if many more are familiar with this one. From George Washington to the Emperor of Morocco, 31 March 1791. I'm gonna read this one. To the Emperor of Morocco, great and magnanimous friend. Now listen carefully, y'all. So if anyone has any questions as to where the diplomatic body, which is the seat of the empire, where that was during the time, here's your answer. Separated by an immense ocean from the more ancient nations of the earth. So they're already agreeing, he's already accepting that we are the most ancient nations of the earth. And it was separated by an immense ocean, which means that the seat of power was across the Atlantic Ocean, according to this letter, which is what's called now the empire, the Kingdom of Morocco. That's where Tangiers was. That's where the diplomatic body was, which is now the United Nations. It has morphed itself into becoming the United Nations, right? And went from the diplomatic body to the League of Nations to now the United Nations. So if the diplomatic body was based on Moroccan law and we oversaw the diplomatic body, that means we would oversee the League of Nations, which means now we oversee the United Nations. And it's coming. Separated by an immense ocean from the more ancient nations of the earth, and little connected with their politics or proceedings, we are late in learning the events which take place among them, and later in conveying to them our sentiments thereon. The death of the late emperor, your father, and our friend of glorious memory, is one of those events which, though distant, attracts our notice and concern, right? So the Sidi Muhammad died, his son took the throne. That's what this letter is about. But let's read further. Receive, great and good friend, my sincere sympathy with you on that loss, and permit me at the same time to express the satisfaction with which I learned the accession of so worthy a successor to the imperial throne of Morocco. And so you're gonna see a reason why he's just like kissing up to him. And to offer you the homage of my sincere congratulations. May the days of your majesty's life be many and glorious, and may they ever mark the era during which a great people, look what he called us, a great people, shall have been most prosperous and happy under the best and happiest of sovereigns. Now we do understand that during this time, there were Moroccan subjects right here on this land. The late emperor, very soon after the establishment of our infant nation, manifested his royal regard and amity to us by many friendly and generous acts, and particularly by the protection of our citizens in their commerce with his subjects. I'll repeat that again. And particularly by the protection of our citizens in their commerce with his subjects. Moorish subjects. Okay, that's why he's saying his subjects. Because even though we're subjugated under the United States, we still had to consult with what? Consular court. Because we were the subjects of Morocco. And as a further instance of his desire to promote our prosperity and intercourse with his realms, the dominions, he entered into a treaty of amity and commerce with us for himself and his successors. Our state governments, we as a people, are his successors, the emperor's successors. This is why when we come back into power, part of the requirements to maintain the diplomacy is to uphold the Treaty of Peace and Friendship, which means now we have to come back into peace and friendship. We can't be at war with each other anymore. And so what he's testing the temperature of the emperor. He's concerned that the emperor would just tear up the contract and say the Treaty of Peace and Friendship is over with. So he wants to see if the emperor is going to maintain his father's word as it relates to the treaty. Right? And as further instances of his desire to promote our prosperity and intercourse with his realms, he entered into a treaty of amity and commerce with us for himself and his successors to continue 50 years. So he wants the emperor to sign it for the next 50 years. Please, sir, I just want to make sure that you're going to sign this. The justice and magnanimity of your majesty leave us full of confidence that the treaty will meet your royal patronage also, and it will give me great satisfaction to be assured that the citizens of the United States of America, we are not Americans. They are the Americans. They are the United States of America. They are the citizens of the United States of America. We are the Moroccans, the Moors, the Moorish nationals, not Americans or Moorish Americans, period. Let's put this conversation to rest. That the citizens of the United States of America may expect from your imperial majesty the same protection and kindness, can you see, which the example of your illustrious father has taught them to expect from those who occupy the throne of Morocco. The United States of America is talking to Morocco. Let's forget about the actual personalities. Let's forget it's George Washington. Let's forget it's Sidi Muhammad's son. What are the countries? The United States of America and Morocco, represented by the president, George Washington, and the emperor, the son of the emperor of Morocco. And to have your royal word that they may count on a due observance of the treaty which connects the two nations in friendship. There's two nations. One is Morocco, the other one is America. So you can't be Moorish American. It's two nations. Just the same way you can't be two continents. Isn't that what Moors be telling you? Well, you can't be two continents. You can't be African and American. Yeah, that's true. Well, guess what? Just as well, you can't be two countries. You can't be Moorish and American. You can't be two countries. You can't be two continents. So the same problem that you're having with the NBCs, they won't listen. They don't want to believe that they're not Negroes, blacks, and colors, and they're not African Americans. Well, we're having the same problem with China. Can everyone hear me? And can you please mute your mics? How do you just come off mic or come off the mute? Like, please, let's be mindful of the mute. I would appreciate that. It distracts me. I lost my train of thought. Okay.
NBCs.
Well, first I need to mute everybody here that's not talking. Okay, looks like some people muted. Thank you. So you having problems with getting our NBC's brothers and sisters to get away from that misnomer, and we're trying to get you to get away from two misnomers: Moorish American, and that the land is America, the land is not America. I don't care what book you show me with pictures of us. I don't care what scholar it came from. J.A. Rogers, right? Ivan Vincent, I don't care. What does the ICJ says? What did the ICJ use to adjudicate the case against the United States and France, or France versus United States? They didn't use the Black's Law Dictionary. I mean, they didn't use the Webster's 1828 Webster's Dictionary. They didn't use no book from no foremost great, awesome scholar nowhere on planet Earth. They used the treaties. Treaty of Peace and Friendship, Treaty of Madrid, and the Act of Algeciras. And our identity is throughout those documents. And treaty is the supreme law of the land, not books, not the word of a scholar. With all due respect, not even a Circle 7. It's not the treaty, that's the supreme law of the land. The treaties outdate Prophet Noble Jihadi. Oh, we just come off the mute again just on GP. Please, Morris, let's be mindful of the mute. I appreciate it. This will be delivered to your majesty by our faithful citizen, Thomas Barclay, whom I name consul for these United States in the dominion of your majesty. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay. Oh my God. Okay, I took care of it. Please, Morris, let's be mindful of the mute. This will be delivered to your majesty by our faithful citizen, Thomas Barclay, whom I name consul for these United States in the dominions of your majesty, and who to the integrity and knowledge qualifying him for that office unites the peculiar advantage of having been the agent through whom our treaty with the late emperor was received. I pray your majesty to protect him in the exercise of his functions for the patronage of the commerce between our two countries. So up here, he talks about two nations, and down here, he says two countries. What are those two countries? The United States of America, Republic, and the Empire of Morocco. And those who carry it on, may that God, whom we both adore, bless. Now listen to where I'm going. Now listen to this now. Whom we both adore, bless your imperial majesty with long life, health, and success, and have you always great and magnanimous friend under his holy keeping. Written, yeah, there it is. Written at Philadelphia, the 31st day of March, in the 15th year of our what? Sovereignty and independence. Act of Algeciras. Triple principles: sovereignty and independence, integrity of domains, economic liberty without any inequality. Them exercising their civil and criminal jurisdiction upon us through legislation in the courts and their law enforcement is integrity of domains, Morris. They've been exercising the integrity of their domains upon us. So they established their sovereignty and independence, as you see highlighted here. Then they moved on to integrity of domains when they put legislation on us and did all what they did to us, to then gain what from that? Economic liberty without any inequality. The triple principles, they exercised it on us. So now that you understand how the triple principles work from a subjugated status, watching the United States work his magic, now you understand what it is that we need to do. Why Prophet Noble Jihadi said that he's leaving the Europeans here long enough to teach us how to run government. So many of our states have established our sovereignty and independence. Now we're working on the integrity of our domains by establishing legislation against the colonists and sending them consular court orders from consular court, from our courts, etc. Now we're exercising integrity of domains against them. It's time for us to flip it on them. It's time to trade places. Don't get me started. Sister, this is what you were talking about, wasn't it? Let's talk about that. So now that we have established that we're not Americans. Oh, I'm sorry. I jumped the gun. That one. Let's go here real quick. Let's go here real quick. So this is the citizenship. Okay. This is 59 Congress, House of Representatives, document number 36. Citizenship of the United States, expatriation and protection abroad. Letter from, mute Moors, mute please. Letter from the Secretary of State. That's you, Cecil. I got you. I'll just mute you. I guess that's just what I'm gonna have to do. Letter from the Secretary of State. Submitting report to the subject, on the subject of citizenship, expatriation, and protection abroad. So this is dealing with citizenship, expatriation, and protection abroad. Okay. Moors, you guys are familiar with this document. If you've been coming to this class, to our classes, you should definitely be familiar with it because we've been over it, I don't know how many times in so many different ways. We're gonna check it again. Where's 59? Let's go to page 59. So you know the reference points, you got the reference point. Let's go to the page. Oh goodness, it's way down here. Okay, let's see. 446. Where are we? 452. Couple more. Thank you for your patience. Here I go. Let's talk about a few things here. Let's prove it further. 456, 457, 450. Okay, right here. Okay, here we are. So, Morocco. This particular section is dealing with Morocco. And it is Mr. Philip, Hoffman Philip, Chargé d'Affaires, the ambassador, on behalf of the United States at the American legation in Tangier. He's reporting to Elihu Root, Mr. Elihu Root, the Secretary of State, and on August 3rd, 1906. So you heard me earlier speak about the diplomatic body, which then became the League of Nations and then became the United Nations. Well, the diplomatic body was a post in Tangiers in Morocco, that was overseen by the Moxen, by the government of Morocco, right? In which all the signatory powers and all these several Christian powers had a post, sort of like an embassy, right? But they called it legations. So you had American legations, the French legation, the German legation, and et cetera, so on and so forth. That's the same concept and the same principles that the United Nations has with the 193 member states. So that's one of your other reference points to show and prove that the United Nations is an offshoot of the diplomatic body, and is overseen by the Moors. And the Secretariat, the Secretary General, is supposed to be reporting to the Moors, but in their proper person as Moroccan state government officials, etc. Okay, let me get off of that. Back to the point. So the simple fact that the United States had an American legation in Morocco at the diplomatic body, where the seat of power was, is all you need to know that you're not American. They had an outpost, what they call a mission in Morocco at the diplomatic body. And their mission was the American legation. So Hoffman Philip was the person sitting at that post in the American legation. And he's reporting back to Mr. Root, the Secretary of State, who is over here at the United States. I hope you're following me so far. So then the document goes on to say, so this would be Dr. Philip, I mean, not Dr. Philip, Mr. Philip, speaking. Sir, there are strictly speaking no Moroccan laws relating to citizenship of Moorish subjects in Morocco. The fundamental laws of this non-Christian country are based entirely upon the Islamic code, no part of which treats of the subject of citizenship. We're not citizens. We've never been citizens. We're either subjects or nationals. So whenever you see United States citizens, American citizens, you're talking about either they're direct citizens as Americans, foreign Americans, or naturalized persons and peoples, i.e. Moorish Americans, African Americans, Negroes, Blacks, and Coloreds. Those are all American citizens. Moorish Americans would tell you that they're American citizens. They love that. I'm an American citizen because you think you're an American. The trick bag is real. The indoctrination is egregious. So it's not even it's a non-Christian country. Our country. We're not Christians, right? But we are, in our subjugated status, Moorish subjects in Morocco. So if we're not Americans, let's see, since we're making the point that we're not Americans, let's see what the so-called white man identify us as, according to, now, okay, so, all right, so I forgot to mention this point. So he's at the American legation in the diplomatic body in 1906, being briefed about the act of Algeciras that was about to get ready to get enacted in 1906. But he's talking about also the Treaty of Madrid that took place in 1880. Because who wrote it? Moroccans, the Moors. So he's at the diplomatic body where it was scribed. This is where they all came together for the conference. So when you ratify the conference, you must deposit it in Tangiers. Because the diplomatic body at the time was in Tangiers. There are, however, numerous treaties and conventions between the various Christian countries. Those various Christian countries had legations at the diplomatic body. American legation, German legation, British legation, Spanish legation, Russian legation, Swedish legation, etc. There are, however, numerous treaties and conventions between the various Christian countries and the Moorish Empire, by means of which citizenship in this country is defined. But as I understand, now listen to this, as I understand from the above acknowledged instructions, that it is not the desire of the department to call for a report upon such lines. They're trying to keep it on the low. They don't want to expose this. This is what he's saying here. Then he goes on to say, I will therefore confine these remarks to general conditions existing. So he doesn't confine his remarks because you don't want to let the cat out the bag. But they didn't have no choice. Even with the confinement of his remarks, right? He still let out enough to give us the answers to the test. The general conditions existing, which may possibly be of some use in connection with the information desired. So they were seeking information dealing with the Moroccan nationality. The United States, through Elihu route, was seeking information dealing with the Moroccan nationality. They're trying to test the temperature to see how far they can take this thing. But then at the same time, they don't want the world to know. Number one, citizenship in Morocco may be said to be governed by the laws pertaining to the same in other countries, with the exception that all persons residing in Morocco who cannot prove foreign citizenship or protection are considered ipso jure as Moorish subjects. Period. So if you cannot prove, right, If you cannot prove foreign citizenship or protection from another country, you're a Moorish subject. That's not what I'm saying. This is what their legislation is saying based on the reports that they have received from the conferences in Tangier.
Question.
Yes.
What would you describe to be proof then of foreign citizenship?
Okay. The way you can think about how the United States can prove their citizenship. What do they offer their citizens? A state ID, birth certificate, right? Passports. These are documents that prove your citizenship to another nation. So your other nation should have the ability to issue you those same documents. State ID, certificate of live birth, etc. Even a passport when the time comes. We're not ready for passports yet because we're not supposed to even have passports anyway. So the time has come, we got to clean all that up. But in the meantime, yeah, state ID, certificate of live birth, that right there, just those two alone is enough to prove your jurisdiction to another state.
So the follow-up question to that would be, what would your response be to Moors whom at present possesses a biometric identity validating them as a Moor, though based on information now received prove that those biometric identity prove you as a Moorish subject. Nonetheless, for those whom are acting in a principle based on their erudition, what would your answer be in relation to those documents?
Well, they're patently frivolous. They don't, you know, did a state issue it to you? Where did you get it from? Tell me the name of the state and show me the flag and the seal and the constitution that gives them the sovereign authority to issue you those documents to prove that you are who you say you are. Because if you can't do that, then you're still a Moorish subject. So if I get it from a temple, that's not a state. If I get it from RV Bay, that's a website. That's not a state. If I get it from any other organization or association, those aren't states. Your state comes with full powers that's found in good and due form. What gives it full powers that's found in good and due form? A ratified, deposited, and promulgated constitution. You've acceded to the treaties, and you've enacted legislation to accept those treaties, etc., and some, according to legislation, or in regards to legislation, I should say. So, and plus you'd have 3 branches of government. So you can't have a consulate, you cannot have a consular, you cannot have consular court, you can't have an embassy without the state authorizing the existence of such departments. We're putting the cart before the horse. We have consulates, we have consular courts and consul generals who claim to be consul generals of consular court. But where's the state that's sanctioning these departments? Consular court exists through the judicial branch, for crying out loud. The United States Supreme Court exists through the judicial branch of the United States. It's really common sense. It's like, how do you have a consulate without a state, without a government? Again, let's put in the cart before the horse. The state comes first, then the state sanctions or establishes those departments on behalf of the government and on behalf of the people. Because so when Moors also have a tendency to say, well, you know, we're on our home, we on our own land, our homeland, and so therefore we don't need consular court. Yes, you do. Why do you need consular court? Because you're dealing with foreigners that's in your homeland. That's the United States, the Americans. So you don't deal with them through your Supreme Court, you deal with them through your consular court and any other foreigner around planet Earth. We got a sick misconcept indoctrination thing going with us, and we really got to unlearn a lot of old paradigm things and really start. The only way to do that is by studying, to replace new knowledge and information that's more accurate and conceptual to replace it with the old paradigm misconcept way of thinking. You can't have you cannot have consular court and a consul general without a state to represent it. It's just ridiculous. All right, so 2 and 3, Moorish subjects. Now, what is our identity? Moorish subjects lost their nationality only by becoming naturalized in or protected by another country having treaty relations with the Moorish Empire. Germany, United States, France, Great Britain, Russia, Hungary, Austria-Hungary, Norway. These are the countries. So those countries have naturalized Moors as well, or protected Moors. So Moorish subjects lost their nationality only by becoming naturalized in. So we were naturalized in 1871. So that's how we lost our nationality. That's how they denationalized us. By us allowing the naturalization, even though we didn't allow it, we didn't even know. So we're naturalized and protected by another country, United States of America in this case, who has treaty relations with the Moorish Empire, the Treaty of Peace and Friendship, the Treaty of Madrid, and the Act of Algeciras. What else you want me to say? This is well-settled principles. This is legislation. These are two Americans talking to themselves about the subjugated Moors. Then he goes on to say, it was established by the Convention of Madrid, concluded July 3rd, 1880 as follows. Article 15 of the Treaty of Madrid. Any subject of Morocco who has been naturalized in a foreign country. So us as subjects of Morocco's were naturalized in the United States of America back in 1871. This came out in 1880, 9 years later. Correcting it for the record, giving us an opportunity, giving us an out from the subjugation and the naturalization. So we were supposed to do this. According to paragraph 1 of Article 15, any subject of Morocco who has been naturalized in a foreign country and who shall return to Morocco shall, after having remained for a length of time equal to that which shall have been regularly necessary for him to obtain such naturalization, choose between entire submission to the laws of the empire. You got to choose between. You can't be Moorish American. You got to choose between one of those two jurisdictions. Are you going to be an American, or are you going to be a Moorish, a national, Moroccan? Keep in mind that if you remain to stay as an American, you still got to get consent from the government of Morocco. How do I know that? Let's finish the read. Choose between entire submission to the laws of the empire and the obligation to quit Morocco, unless it shall be proved that his naturalization in a foreign country was obtained with the consent of the government of Morocco. So if you want to remain American, no fine, no problem. But you still got to get permission from the government of Morocco to do so. Otherwise, you got to bring your butt home, Dorothy, back home to Morocco, which you're already in Morocco, you're already home. However, if you don't do what paragraph 1 says, which is to choose between those two jurisdictions, this is what's going to happen to you. Or choose Morocco, this is what's going to happen to you. Foreign naturalization heretofore, which means going forward. Foreign naturalization heretofore acquired by subjects of Morocco. So any more who has acquired foreign naturalization, according to the rules established by the laws of the United States. It says of each country, but in this case, we're dealing with the United States. According to the rules established by the laws of the United States, shall be continued to them as regards all its effects without any restrictions. Period. So, police brutality, KKK hangings, false imprisonment and trumped up charges and jail time for all kind of stuff. Pumping dope into our communities, poverty, the projects, all the things that we might see as unjust is being done legally and lawfully according to the treaty. That's why he said they lost their nationality based on treaty relations with the Moorish Empire. It's the treaty that's doing this to us. They're standing there square on the treaty, or at least the part that's beneficial to them as it relates to our mistreatment. But whose fault is it? Ours. Why? Because we didn't choose between the entire submission of the empire. Now, did we not do so because we didn't know? Of course, we didn't know. But like they say, ignorance of the law is no excuse. And also we know that some of our own sold us out. So that's Article 15 of the Treaty of Madrid, paragraph 1, paragraph 2, has been reaffirmed by the two Americans talking about our nationality. Then he goes on to say, the above ruling has never yet been acted upon. What ruling? The Article 15 is a ruling, it's an obligation. The above ruling has never yet been acted upon. That's what he said to them, to Mr. Root. He's saying that they're still acquiescing, they still ain't acted upon this. And should this at any time be contemplated seriously, what are we doing right now? We're contemplating this thing quite seriously today. Oh, we are contemplating this thing quite seriously to the point where we've already done it. So it's not even a contemplation anymore. We passed the stage of contemplation. We're now doing it, active, not passive. And should this at any time be contemplated seriously, a large number of naturalized people, American and others, residing in Morocco would be affected thereby. Oh, you're right about that. There's going to be a lot of people who's going to be affected by our contemplation or acting upon that ruling above, which is Article 15, which talks about any subject of Morocco who has been naturalized in a foreign country must choose between entire submission to the laws of the empire, entire, not 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Moorish American is 1 foot in, 1 foot out. That didn't say nothing about 1 foot in, 1 foot out, halfway nothing. Entire submission. That means you got to get all in it. You can't have 1 foot in, 1 foot out, Moorish American. You're not Moorish Americans, you're not Americans, you are Moroccans. The people are named after the land is named after the people. The land is called Morocco, therefore you are Moroccans. Period. Al-Maghrib al-Aqsa, Morocco of the farthest west, not America of the farthest west. Residence in foreign parts does not affect the nationality of Moorish subjects, and the Moorish government has no means of protecting them. Its subjects permanently residing in other countries, with the exception of a so-called Moorish consul at Gibraltar and a Moorish agent at Cairo, Egypt. I am, etc., Hoffman Philip. Now they're going to the Netherlands. So we finished with Morocco. And he even said that the Moorish government has no means of protecting them. Why? Because they don't exist. Any questions on this document?
Question.
Yes.
Okay, this question, I guess it would be in a 2 parts. So for instance, now, I guess between, and I guess in a sense, this is speaking in nature's law. If and this is, I guess would say both ways. If a Moorish, or I will put this, if a male Moor or a male Moorish has a child with a United States American woman, and by our customs and traditions, we say what the mother is what the child is. However, based upon the treaties, everyone would actually be without the government, you know, behind them would be actually subject to, you know, Moorish subject, so to speak, because the land or the empire, the land is Morocco, even though there's a jurisdiction created and given to them as quote unquote a country, but the country is quote unquote ports and protectorate jurisdiction because of, you know, land grants, leases, et cetera, et cetera. So I guess the question would be is, what would happen now, or what choice would now that child would have, or the choice that would be made between either man or woman, a Moorish woman, and a, you know, vice versa, as far as that status, you know, so how does that now equate to the treaties at those times between, you know, what they say 1787 and 1906? How would the protection and the agreements lie in between, you know, those points? And comparative to the, you know, naturalization laws and everything that's erected. I yield.
Islam, if he's speaking, he must have fell off because we don't hear you.
Oh, my bad. I was talking and I was on. Damn. All right, my bad. I apologize. I was saying that thank you, Mufti, for letting me know. Sometimes I need that. I was saying that there'll be all persons or all peoples in Morocco are under the protection of Moroccan law, keeping in mind that Moroccan law is not demonic. It's love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, but you still fall under the jurisdiction of Moroccan law. So, and we're all about uplifting fallen humanity, right? Love instead of hate. So that child will be protected. I think the question that you're really asking is, what would be his national identity? What would his nationality be? And understanding how things are today, that would make sense now that he would be Moorish American, right? Because his father is a Moor, his mother is an American, i.e. Moorish American, right? In that sense, I guess, but that wouldn't necessarily be some way which way we would go. Not sure at this point. That's something that we would have to deliberate upon and enact legislation to identify a child of a mixture like that, right? But we know that, as you said, whatever the mothers see, according to our Constitution, that child would be a patrilineal Moor, right? Because based on his father's bloodline, he's a Moor. So that would be his status in our state. So I guess I could answer the question with that. He would be a patrilineal Moor. Whereas, and they get different benefits than those who are matrilineal Moors, which means that the mother is a Moor. So, for example, someone that's a patrilineal Moor, they don't have the authority or the right, we don't extend the right to them to hold the pen and be legislators, right? Only those that are matrilineal Moors, females, and you still got to be a matriarch to take on the position of the Dalil Aziz or the Sayaraha as the legislators. So you would have to be a matrilineal Moor, meaning that your mother is a Moor, in order for you to be a legislator, or even even the head of state or the Qazi, the chief judge. Any three branches of the government, you got to be a matrilineal Moor. We cannot risk the pen to the hands of others anymore. Period. We just can't do it. We've done that already. Look what happened. We have to maintain control of our empire, and it's a Moorish empire. And it's a Moorish empire, so it's not discrimination. It's legacy. It's maintaining the power. You can't give up the pen again. So everyone in the three branches of government have to be of matrilineal status. Can you be in a position in a government official in a government capacity as a patrilineal? Yes, but it will be a lower position that doesn't require you to hold the pen. You could be like a Sharif, for example. You might be a minister of defense or something, but you ain't gonna be no legislator, you ain't gonna be a Qazi, and you ain't gonna be no chief judge. That's an issue that AMPAG just recently got through dealing with but that's another story. Anyway, I hope I answered that question.
Pretty much. It was just that the fact that, because one of the biggest misconceptions that, I see is it's not the issue if one is a Moor or not, or identifies themselves to be a Moor. I think the issue is knowing the difference in history between what the Christian nations were and what the Mohammedan, nations were. Because I think, because even when you speak about King George, just because you know him related to, the King George version of the Bible, that doesn't negate or take away that he wasn't a Moor. Most people, kind of subside that and put that in the back, purview, and not knowing that it's not about really the pedigree. We're talking about, what was going on in as far as legislation, as far as one assuming either no bill rights and or what they say Magna Charta common law rights, but however it was constructed and agreed upon for safe passage, it was just done based upon, comes back to the legislation, of those enactments of things being done. But, I just asked that question because it's like, it's, it seems like it's being selected based upon more religious, not what we saying, ones or more, because, Moorish is just all of our bloodlines as this present day has been mixed, regardless if it's been mixed with, European, regardless if it's been mixed with, whatever, ethnic groups that we have today, but our DNA has been mixed. That's, but, that's the reason why the question is asked, because, I'm afraid that some of us may get radical in creating or ideally bringing thoughts together and, secluding or exiting out. Even those just by their human essence, just might have a bright idea or be gifted, but because of, one's, so to speak, understanding about DNA, the science of it, and now going to classifications of, man scribes and religious texts.
Well, legislation is the key to everything. And if we want to get it right and make sure that we respect everyone's rights, human rights, etc., which is a preemptory norm of international law, just cogence, then we have to put our heads together and think all these things through, which is something that we're already doing anyway on our Monday classes, where we're quite mindful and careful not to violate their human rights, because if that happens, then they'll have one up against us. That can come back on us. We have to, because that's what the treaty is all about. That's what the United Nations Charter is about. It's about human rights and the security of international peace, or should I say, securing international peace and security on planet Earth. So that's an excellent point. And that's something that we can deliberate as states going forward to ensure that we identify everyone properly and accordingly to their respective bloodlines. That's something that hasn't happened because we've been put into a crayon box. Everybody's black and white, red and yellow. I mean, we're not used to addressing people based on their nationality. We address people based on their color. So that's already, an issue in it of itself that needs to be cleaned up. We must institute reforms for these things. And that would be an administrative reform that needs to be instituted to clean up that particular aspect of our society here in Morocco. Islam,
and I definitely think that the divinity of human right principles should always be equated, because what I've even noticed in the nationalities, nation statehood, it almost ends up like the Crips and Bloods, in that form, so to speak. So definitely always on the principles of human, progress, human development, should always be the key, which is the last two when we're talking about 5 on the left and 2 on the right. Yeah.
Islam. Agreed. Any other point of interest or questions in regards to the expatriation document or anything that we spoke about thus far before we go into this resolution? Okay, so we've already identified that we're not Americans, which means then we are Moroccans. So since we know that we're not Americans, and we know this based on the treaty, which is supreme law of the land, 2 letters from George Washington, as well as legislation from the United States and a report from Hoffman Phillip, the Chargé d'Affaires, to Elihu Root, the Secretary of State of the United States. We heard what they had to say. We also saw what the Treaty of Madrid had to say, Article 15, that they reaffirmed in that report. Now that we know those things, now that our concept has been slightly corrected, at least for the moment, if you're being objective right now with us. Now let's get into Resolution 75. And let's identify a for sure factual sellout in the Moorish movement. Can somebody read this for me, please? Preferably, I love your reading, good brother, but let's get a mother on the line. Let's get a matriarch on the line. Can we get a matriarch to read this here real quick?
I'll read. Can you hear me?
Yes, and thank you very much.
You're welcome. 1933 Legislative Journal, House, page 5759, Resolution number 75.
By the way, I got this particular version from our favorite website, RB Bay Publication. Go ahead, sister.
All right. Mr. Wicken, Mr. Speaker, I desire at this time to call up Resolution number 75, printer's number 1034. The resolution was made by the clerk as follows. In the House of Representatives, April 17, 1933. Many sons and daughters of that proud and handsome race which inspired the architecture of Northern Africa and carried into Spain the influence of its artistic temperaments have become citizens of this nation.
Stop right there.
Okay.
Enough said. Just that right there.
Mhm.
Because he said that we have become citizens of this nation. That means that we have subjugated based on the Naturalization Act. Right or wrong, Moors? Yes or no? Somebody tell me yes or no.
Yes.
Yes.
Right.
Exactly. So right there, we got a problem. We haven't even got halfway through the reading. Go ahead, sister, continue reading.
In the city of Philadelphia, there exists a Moorish American society made up of Moors who have found here the end of their quest for a home and are the children of those who journeyed here from the plains of Morocco.
Journeyed here from the plains of Morocco, as if we're not in Morocco.
Mhm.
So where we came from? Planet Pluto. I mean, where you came from? Africa? Or are you telling me that it's based in the mind? See, in the mind, we left Morocco and ended up in the United States of America. Similar to the Wizard of Oz. We've always been home. Dorothy never left home. She only left home in her head. She bumped her head. We bumped our head. In fact, they bumped our head. Jubala, Jubalo, Jubalum. The 3 ruffians who hit Hiram Abiff in the head, knocked him unconscious, buried him in a shallow grave in the West. So in the mind, perhaps that's what they're saying, journeyed here from the plains of Morocco in the mind, the plains, right? The spirit plane. Continue.
This society has done much to bring about a thorough absorption by these people of those principles which are necessary to make them good American citizens.
Really? Okay, continue.
Okay. These Moorish Americans have since being here missed the use of the titles and name annexations that were so familiar at home and which are used in accordance with the doctrines of the religious faith to which they are adherents. Therefore be it resolved that this House commends the Moorish American Society of Philadelphia for the efficient service it has rendered the nation in bringing about a speedy and thorough Americanization of these former Moors, and that in accordance with the fullest right of religious independence guaranteed every citizen, we recognize also the right of these people to use the name affixes El or Ali or bey, or any other prefix or suffix to which they have heretofore been accustomed to use, or which they may hereafter acquire the right to use. On the question, will the House adopt the resolution? It was adopted May 4th, 1933.
It was adopted May 4th, 1933. And who was conspiring with the United States to bring about a speedy Americanization of these former Moors? Somebody give me the answer.
American Society of Philadelphia.
Moorish American.
American.
Of Philadelphia. This is no conjecture. This is not my opinion. This is not how I feel about the matter. We're talking legislation. And in this legislation, they said, resolve that this House commends, they commend, they give thanks to. Resolved that this House commends the Moorish American Society of Philadelphia for the efficient service it has rendered the nation. What nation? The United States. In bringing about a speedy, quick, fast, and a hurry, let's get it done. A speedy and thorough, properly done, and it was thorough. You can't get Moors off of that for nothing. It was quick and it was thorough. They came down on us with Moors wearing fezzes. They swooped down on us. It was swift. It was a swift attack with the pen. And miseducation coming out of the temple. That's how I'm thinking. Speedy and thorough. Americanization. Keeping in mind, we already identified that we're not Americans. We're Moroccans. So we were Americanized with the help of the Moorish American Society of Philadelphia. Of these former Moors. We were Moors. We're no longer Moors. We're not what? We're now what? Citizens, American citizens. And that in accordance with the fullest right of religious independence guaranteed every citizen. So it's based on religiousness. No wonder the temple is religious. It has nothing to do with civics and definitely, or should I say jurisprudence, definitely not international law and statehood. And then you talk about the right to affix the L's and the All's. I don't need the right from you. I get that right from my consanguinity. I get that right from Allah, not you. And this is what we stand on. This is what we work with. This is what we brag about. It is difficult and it's painful. Go ahead, sister.
Okay, so the question then becomes the 101 questions. When it asks, what is your nationality? And the answer is given is Moorish American.
Okay, so go ahead. What's your question?
And then it says, why are you Moorish American? And the answer, because we're descendants of Moroccans and born in America. So can you speak to that? What are your thoughts on that?
I certainly can. But first, before I answer that, are you reading that from your 101s?
No.
Oh, where are you reading it? Do you have, are you online? No? No worries. No worries.
Questions.
I can answer it without, there's no problem.
Okay.
The reason why I was asking is because it's 101 questions.
All right.
It's not one question or two, 101. So question 31 also states, what is the modern name of the Moabites? Answer, Moroccans. So question to the floor, are we not the Moabites?
Yeah.
Yay or nay?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, I thought we were Moabites. Okay, But then you go to chapter 47 of the Holy Quran, and it says that the Moabites are the founders and true possessors of the present Moroccan Empire. We just said that we just agreed that we're Moabites, and we're the possessors and founders of the present Moroccan Empire. So if you're the possessors and the founders of the Moroccan Empire, wouldn't that make you Moroccan? And doesn't that tie into question 31? Now let's get to question 15. Why are you Moorish Americans? Because you're descendants of Moroccans born in America. Question for the floor. Do you all not think that Prophet Noble Jew Ali knew that this land is Morocco?
He knew.
He knew. That's a rhetorical question. He knew. Because he also told us that the flag been flying over here for over 10,000 years. So he already knows that this is Morocco. He knows that this is not America. So what was he saying then? Well, what he was saying is exactly what happened in 1871. You're descendants of Moroccans, naturalized in America, born in America, naturalized in America. You wasn't born in Morocco. We're talking jurisdiction, not the land. The descendants of Moroccans were born in American jurisdiction, i.e., that's what makes them Moorish Americans, and Moorish Americans are Moorish subjects. We were supposed to figure that out. Not just take it and run with it. We were supposed to study, study, study. He told us, don't worship me, carry on my laws. Study and carry on my laws. We were supposed to study to carry on the laws. We were supposed to be curious enough to try to determine what was the other half that wasn't told. Because if he didn't tell us the other half, then clearly he didn't bring everything that we needed, even though he might have said it. No, you didn't. You can't say in one sentence that I brought everything that you needed to raise a nation, but then turn around and say that the other half hasn't been told. There's a contradiction there. Did you bring it all or did you not? Because one moment you say you brought it all, the other moment you said that the other half hasn't been told. So to answer your question more directly, he was speaking about jurisdiction because he already knew that this was Morocco. So he's really saying that we were naturalized in the American jurisdiction. That's why we're Moorish Americans, but that's a subjugation status.
Mm-hmm.
Keeping in mind, he also told you in 31 that you was Moroccans. So we were supposed to, we got to read his literature as clues, because he did use clues, signs and symbols, spoken parables, same as Jesus. You had to decipher and discern what he's saying. Not just take it at face value, at the surface. I hope I answered your question.
You did. I yield. Thank you.
Islam. So do we see? So we've already established who did it. We may not know nobody else. We might guess and conjecture, have feelings and opinions and thoughts and ideas about others. But we know a specific group for sure. The Moorish American Society of Philadelphia were complicit in the speedy and thorough Americanization of former Moors. I rest my case with that one. I dare anybody to come back and try to challenge that understanding, that fact, that truth, because you wouldn't be arguing with me. You arguing with legislation. I didn't write that. No wonder most of the Philly temples and a lot of temples around Morocco fly the flag in its improper order, with the United States flag on the left and the Moorish flag on the right. When you're looking at that order, the United States flag would be the flag on the left is the dominant side. When you're looking at the speaker, when you're looking at the flag from your vantage point, and someone is speaking on the podium, the flag being on the left is the dominant flag. So whatever flag you put on the left, that's the dominant flag. They usually put the United States flag on the dominant side and the Moorish flag on the subordinate side. If you're the speaker looking at the crowd, the dominant side will be over your right shoulder. So it's right shoulder to you as the speaker, left shoulder, then it would be your left shoulder to me as the audience member watching you speak. So it depends on which direction are you standing facing the crowd with the flag behind you, or are you the crowd looking at the speaker with the flags in front of you? So if it's you speaking and the flag is behind you, it would be right to left. Over your right shoulder is the dominant flag, the left shoulder is the subordinate flag. If you're the audience member watching the speaker, it will be the flag on the left will be the dominant flag, the flag on the right will be the subordinate flag. This is called vexillology, the study of flags. Is dress right dress, military arrangements. That concludes the discussion for today in regards to the reference points to prove that we're not American or Moorish American, that we are indeed Moroccans. I yield the floor. I open up the floor for any comments, concerns, and any discussions that you may want to have. Islam, I yield.
I just want to say,
Islam, good brother.
Oh, I'm sorry, somebody, one at a time, please.
Islam, brother.
Islam.
Yeah, this is Brother Deal coming out of the Maryland Territory Republic.
Islam.
So as it relates to the 101 questions for Moorish children, and that's one of the questions that is actually inscribed in there. So for what reason would it be now a conflict of that recognition if in the lessons it's actually outlined as that?
I'm not sure I understand if that was even a statement. Could you rephrase it? I'm not sure what you were saying.
Yeah, when you're saying to take on the title of being Moorish American as
Yeah.
relates to the 101 question for Moorish children is actually stated in there. And so what would be the reason now or the grounds to which that would not be applicable if, according to the teachings that Drew Ali had already laid down as a foundation, that was one of the questions and answers that are in there.
Grounds for that is further study. As he told you, study, study, study. We're supposed to build upon what he brought, not remain as is. Being passive and not active, we're supposed to build upon what he brought. So if you went over these, if you were there to watch or examine the reference points that I just went over, that we just examined, first of all, you'll see that the Treaty of Peace and Friendship came out in 1786, 1787, 1786. Prophet Noble Drew Ali was born in 1856. The Treaty of Peace and Friendship, the Treaty, 1860?
1868.
1868. The Treaty of Madrid came out in 1880. The Prophet was barely a child, right? So the treaties outdates the Prophet, and furthermore, treaties are the supreme law of the land. Thirdly, yes, he said what he said in Article 15. So how do you, not Article 15, question 15, but then how do you explain question 31? Question 31 says that we're Moroccans. Question 15 says that we're Moroccans, except that we were born in America. So the point
so then looking at the activity of which they've done by doing the Public Act of 1956, and then of course when the establishment of the Kingdom of Morocco over there, to which those citizens of that nation state would be identified as Moroccans. So one of the attempts of what they generally do with their wizardry is they try to confuse the recognition of said persons, and they'll try to attribute it as you're talking about Morocco over there. And so there's an embassy in DC that you talk to, or we have to have communication with, right, totally negating the effectiveness that treaty is still long standing, is still in force. So by identifying yourself as being Moroccan, that just kind of pulls you back into that whirlwind of the deception that they can use with the words.
No, they can't. You know why they can't? Excuse me. Because what's the supreme law of the land, good brother?
Constitution and pursuant to the treaties.
Treaties, not constitution.
That's I said the Constitution in pursuant to the treaties.
I heard you say that, good brother.
Islam, there's some feedback. I don't know what's causing it.
Yeah, I'm hearing that too.
Okay.
It's a mute problem, and Moors don't want to stay muted.
Okay.
treaty is the supreme law of the land. Do you have to have a constitution? See, what you're saying is that you got to have a constitution to enforce the treaties, and that's exactly so. But the treaty is the supreme law of the land, right? So if the treaty is the supreme law of the land and the treaty is calling you Moroccans, then no other human being on planet Earth can trump that with their pen or otherwise. And furthermore, what you're talking about over there is the Kingdom of Morocco. What we're talking about over here is the Empire of Morocco. The empire, the kingdom is only what's 2023 minus 1956. That's how old there are. The
Yeah,
empire,
absolutely. But again, that's going back to, and I know a lot of the brothers and sisters in here at the Maryland territory have experienced firsthand how their the fraternal orders and their de facto operations in their judiciary branch would try to play that word game of, when you say Moroccan or Morocco, they would only try to like designate that it's talking about that kingdom. Knowing clearly that we're speaking solely on the empire, but I'm saying that with that, to just say you're Moroccans, then it just kind of just aids to that deceptive attention that they would give to attributing it to the kingdom that was just
it depends
as a
on how you're
contemporary
saying
being
it.
established.
Islam. It depends on how you're saying it. How are you saying it? Are you saying that as an ipso Moorish subject, or are you saying that as a Moroccan national that's being backed by three branches of government, a constitution, your seal, your flag, and your legislation? Big difference, bro. The Moors have been doing things as individuals, as Moorish subjects, whether as Moorish American, whether identifying themselves as Moorish Americans, African Americans, Aboriginal, it doesn't matter what you identify yourself as. You're a Moorish subject if you're not able to prove your protections and your citizenship from another state.
Absolutely.
We just went over that, right? And so they play games with ipso Moorish subjects all the time, and they can do it till they lose, till they're blue in their faces. What they're not going to do is play games with official Moroccan nationals in their proper person through under the protections of three branches of government with a ratified constitution. I bet you they ain't gonna play games no more now after that. So what we're talking about is old paradigm scenarios. We're talking about new paradigm scenarios with three branches of government, not as an individual Moor who's a Moorish subject, but a Moor that's a national that's coming with an entire state. He's probably being represented by his consul general who was appointed by the head of state. Big difference. Big difference. Now you're talking full powers that's found in good and due form. The United States cannot stand next to that. They fall under the jurisdiction of the consular court based on the competent claim that you're making through your three branches of government. Moors haven't done that. We've been doing things as Moroccan subjects, as Moorish subjects. And so, yeah, they're gonna play games with you, but they know what time it is. I just read the expatriation document. They know that, as a matter of fact, between them and the Kingdom of Morocco, they start to strike Article 15 out of the text. Let's go to it. Show and prove with the reference points. So this is the Article 15. This is Treaty of Madrid. Look at what it says at the bottom of the footnote. Oh, come on. What happened here? Excuse me, y'all. My computer bugging on me. I was trying to. There we go. Look at what it says here. A U.S. note of March 17, 1959, in 1959, addressed to the Moroccan Ministry of Foreign Affairs. See, this is where you got with this word wizardry. But if you understand the history, they can't play games with you. It's the Kingdom of Morocco Ministry of Affairs, not the Moroccan Ministry of Affairs, of Foreign Affairs, which, by the way, they stole our flag as well as our identity. A U.S. note of March 17, 1959, addressed to the Moroccan Ministry of Foreign Affairs, referred to a note from the ministry dated October 8, 1958, in which the embassy had been informed that the Moroccan government had decided to strike all prescriptions relating to Moroccan nationality from the text of the Madrid Convention. Why? Oh, now you want to violate our human rights. That's why it didn't work. Oh, you don't want us to have a nationality. The U.S. note said, in part, the government of the United States of America having unilaterally relinquished certain rights in Morocco with the reemergence of Morocco into independence. That's not true. The Kingdom of Morocco is in independence, not Morocco reemerging. I mean, Morocco never reemerged. It's in a shallow grave. We're bringing it back into power. They're playing games, basically the same games that you're talking about. But when you have the proper discernment, they can't play those games with you. Reemergence of Morocco into independence in 1956 considers that in line with historical developments, Article 15 of the Madrid Convention on protections of 1880 has become obsolete and without effect. No, it has not. Because number one, he's the king, no longer the sultan. That's, and number two, it violates human rights, which at this point, both of these, especially the United States, is a member of the United Nations, the Charter. And the Charter forbids violations against human rights, just cogents, preemptory norms of international law. And preemptory norms are higher than even the customary norms. For that same reason, you can't violate human rights. But you've seen how they're talking about the Moroccan nationality. And they're trying to say that it's obsolete and without effect because they're trying to strike Article 15 from the record because they don't want us to come back to our governments. They don't want us to have a nationality. They want to keep us subjugated. And also keep in mind too, that the Mohammed V, who stepped down from being the Sultan to become the king of the Kingdom of Morocco, he himself is a pale Arab. The pale Arabs is who run Morocco right now. And according to their constitution, the indigenous people of the land, they labeled them or named them Berbers and Amazites. It's in their constitution.
Right, and I think he has a blood relation to Netanyahu.
Possibly, but he ain't us.
Islam, I want to interject. You know, that was a wicked thing to do. Islam.
I believe his mic is muted, good brother.
Prime Minister, your mic is muted. Interesting.
Sorry about that. My phone did it again. Oh my God. I don't know why my phone keeps doing that. So yeah, so Islam, I hope I answered your question and clarified that for you, brother.
Islam, may I?
Yes.
Yeah. Let me say this, being in the Moorish Tip of America at this moment, just to give everybody full disclosure of who I am. Prophet Noble Jew Ali instituted the Moorish Tip of America in a way that we should grow. As you stated, and somebody read this as what's this, questions and answers for children, Moorish children. And sometimes we got to get into adulthood. And within the lessons of the Holy Quran, it tells you that the gifts of the understandings are the treasure of Allah. He appointed to each one in what measure seemeth to a good that is good unto himself. So that means if you're studying, you're gonna realize some things. He said, a wise man doubteth often and changes his mind. A fool is obstinate and doubteth not, and knoweth of all things but his own ignorance. Meaning we have to study and study some more. Now he instituted Moorish Tip of America to go around his elbow to get to his thumb. That's what it says in the oral statements. Why? Because he couldn't go straight up and do what he wanted to do, because it started out as a civic organization, teaching Moors about themselves. But you got some people that was in opposition to what he was doing. So he said, okay, I'm forced to make changes. So he created the Moorish Tip of America Bill affidavit to teach these lessons so that, why? According to their law, they can't legislate religion. Until we get to the point where we're erudite to understand what we understand right now today, to institute our own constitution for our own people under our own vine and fig tree. He was a genius in doing what he did. He was definitely a genius, but it was gonna be those that dig down deep beneath the rock and soil of carnal things, where the riches gem abound. And you're gonna have these lessons, they're gonna be with you forever. Because he said it's gonna take you 50 years to understand what I brought you.
Exactly.
And if you're not careful, 50 years from now, you won't know I've been here.
And that's what happened.
Yep. By what? By those what? Those dirty Moors, those
Moorish.
smelly
Moorish American.
instituted. That's right. They came in. They infiltrated, set everything down. They killed the prophet. Doing what he was trying to do. We the ones that's got to bring it back. And yeah, it's going to have to be called the Moorish Science Temple, the United States of Morocco, Moorish Science Temple of Morocco. That has a better ring to it.
Exactly.
So we got to grow and unfold as does the bud and flow to show the flower. So we just got to study Muslims. That's it. We here.
Islam, brother. Well said.
Islam, I agree. That sounds like a Sharifian sheik right there.
He is. That is what he is. He serves two hats, man. He wears two fezzes. He's the Grand Sheikh and he's the Mufti, Council General.
Islam, and Islamism.
Yes, sir. And that's my man's in them. You know.
And you know I'm stepping out on the line because I know somebody gonna hear my voice and come back at me, but you know I don't care. I know the truth. That's my teaching. I know the truth.
Exactly.
And one thing I want to say, and I'm gonna let this go. You know how a magician, we think they have illusions, right? Yeah. But like the prophet says, there's only two things in the world: truth and falsehood. And falsehood is that what seems to be. So the illusion will remain until you find out, hey, how the trick is done. There's no trick to it now because you know how it's done. So now we're waking up to understand how it is done. It was through its cheating, hypothecation, corrupting the bloodline, and then putting legislation down. And now we got what? Through naturalization. We got American citizens and being born in America. Just to answer the sister question, that's how we got born in America.
Yep. Through naturalization. The pen, the power of the pen. Islam Grand Sheikh, gratitude for your that excellent point of interest. To make the point a lot clearer, we were supposed to study, and carry the laws on. We were supposed to build upon what he brought, not just remain stagnant with what he brought. That's the credit that Taj Tariq Bey got, that he tried to at least expand beyond what the Prophet brought. So now we're here, taking it even further to where it needs to be, which is international law and statehood. There's no way no one can tell me that the Prophet wasn't aware. Keep in mind, Moors, Abdul Aziz, the Sultan of Morocco at the time of the Prophet, is who you'll find on the front of the Circle 7. And when you understand government titles and structure, according to the Rudder and Sextant, Prophet is a title, a government title, subordinate to Sultan. Sultan is the highest title in the Moroccan Empire. Prophet is an officer of the empire. The empire was in existence during the time of the Prophet. The Sultan was there. What does that tell you? Common sense. The Prophet was an officer of the Empire of Morocco. And he was tasked with he was given a task to come here and wake up the Moors in America, so-called America, Northwest Morocco. He knew about the Treaty of Madrid. He knew about the Act of Algeciras. He knew about the Treaty of Peace and Friendship. Why am I so special that I know about these treaties, but the Prophet, who was way ahead of his time, then you think he didn't know about the treaties? And he was an international, he was operating based on international principles. He brought us the Moorish flag, which is an international flag, not a national flag. He brought us our identity, which is an international identity and not nothing else other. The Fez is international. Everything about us is international. So why are we subjugating ourselves to only learning United States municipal laws and their constitution and their case laws from their Supreme Court? We got case laws at the ICJ that we could use. We got treaty provisions that we can use. We have international law agreements, conventions, and resolutions that we can use. Go read Resolution 1514. It's a decolonization document. If you don't want to read it, no worries. Go to AMPAG Media, scroll down, and you'll find we made a video called UN Resolution 1514 of 1960. The Africans used that to bring about their independence. While we were doing what? Marching and praying, we shall overcome. Why? Because in 1933, the Moorish American Society of Philadelphia had already took part in the speedy and thorough Americanization of the former Moors. We were sold out long ago. 1933. How long is that after the prophet died? Let's see. He passed away in 1999.
4 years.
Years. They didn't waste no time. These dirty Moors. I might want to yield before I start saying things that I may regret. I yield the floor.
Islam. So a couple quick points to add to that, and then to say what I wanted to say to begin with. In the prophet's, I guess you would say, letter or instruction to be read in every meeting, it starts off, or to be proclaimed in every meeting, I should say. It starts off by saying, "I'm glad to know that I have a few faithful Moors among you all." Right?
Yeah.
Now, of course, these Moors who did the whole Resolution 75 thing, and got those body of Moors to be declared as former Moors, clearly they're not faithful to the prophet.
Right.
Right?
Exactly.
But yeah, so a few things I wanted to say, and I'm probably gonna break it down later and create some graphics for it. But as you started off, Wazir, in the meeting, you touched on the two parties to a contract. There's two sides to a coin, two parties to a contract. And with the Moors in America, who were born or naturalized in America, there are two paths to the same solution. The prophet chose the path of least resistance because when he arrived on the scene, the Moors were so dumbed down to the point where he knew they were not capable of running a government at the time. Right? Which is why he made it clear that he's going to leave the Europeans here long enough to teach them. He knew he wasn't going to be around for that. Right? So he chose the path of least resistance, which is to, and this is expounded on in that same to be proclaimed in every meeting, which is to give the Moors their earthly salvation as American citizens, right? That path of least resistance is within the United States of America. Because again, the Moors were not competent enough to run their own Moorish government, right? And so everything that he did was to give us that earthly salvation within their system. The ultimate goal of that was for us to be running government once the European go back home.
Right.
Now, when the European is back home, that government is going to be a Moorish government, right? Right?
Oh, no doubt.
And so the point, and AMPAG's Kazi touched on this in the inauguration of Felodian Moorish Preamble ante Colorado. He made mention of, well, I'll just say this. The whole point of Moorish governments being established now is to force decolonization, to force the Europeans' hand. Because we know all the cards they're holding. They've been holding them for 100 years. So we're trying to force their hand now by getting to the end goal. We're not jumping through the loops right now. We're going straight to the end and establishing Moorish governments. Right? Now, that does not mean we don't need temples. We definitely need Moorish Science Temple of America. Okay? Because the United States of America as a government is not going anywhere. Right? Prophet already said that. Our goal is to restore the balance within the international political atmosphere by putting the Moroccan Empire, reestablishing it, restoring it, resurrecting it, and putting it back on top where it belongs. The United States of America will become, as it was before, subservient to it, as they were when they were paying taxes.
Right.
And we already went over what's his name's letter, George Washington. So it's important for Moors to comprehend that, because there are going to be a few slanderers out there, and you already know exactly the ones I'm talking about, that are going to take parts of some of what we say and then flip it around to try to make it seem like we're against the temple.
Right.
We're just forcing the hand to decolonize. It's been 100 years, Moors haven't done diddly squat except sell out.
Exactly.
And we, coming in with our eyes wide open, we're now taking the necessary actions to force that decolonization and reunite these two paths to get to that same solution. And I yield with that.
Excellent, brother. Excellent, and I want to camel back on that. Excellent points. For the record, we are not against the Moorish Temple of America that Prophet Noble Drew Ali established. We're not pro the temple today. It's a big difference. The temple ain't right, Moors. And it ain't right not because the prophet ain't right. The temple ain't right because the Moors sold out. Be careful, Moors. It would be your own in turbans and fences that will set you back into slavery. Prophet Noble Drew Ali, because he already knew it. We already know that when he was assassinated, the Moors ran up in his office, ransacked his office, removed information. What did they remove? Well, I can tell you this, whatever it is that they removed, they did not bring it back. So if something was removed, it was replaced with something. I wonder what that was. So the temple needs to be cleaned up. No one has ever cleaned up the temple in the past 100 years. And we know there's been a three-way split. One guy who says he's a reincarnated prophet, the other one who says that the prophet gave him the reins to everything, and somebody else. Then you got others. I won't mention too many other names because I can't, I got wind that someone was offended by me bringing up a certain name, one of our government officials in one of our states. So I'll stay away from that name in respect for that person. Otherwise, I'll be going in on them because I go in on them all the time. Anyway, we know that the temple was split three ways within the temple, probably even more than that. We know that we've got sellouts in the temples. We know that there's problems with the temples. We know that, like the good brother just said, after 100 years, which is a century, nothing has gotten done. Why did it take for me to be 35 before I learned or found out about Prophet Noble Drew Ali and the Moorish Temple of America? Why haven't they had an ongoing campaign promoting Prophet Noble Drew Ali and the Moorish Temple of America? Why is it that all melanated people here in Morocco don't know about Prophet Noble Drew Ali and the Moorish Temple of America? We know about everybody else. We know about Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey existed during the time of the Prophet. Al Capone existed during the time of the Prophet, for crying out loud. But we know about all those figures, but we don't know about Prophet Noble Drew Ali. It's a sellout. And we got to clean up the temple. How do you clean up the temple? Legislation. Take back control of the empire. Once we take back control of the empire, now the United States fall under the jurisdiction of the Moors. Now there's no such thing as classified information from the FBI or the CIA. Nothing is classified now. Everything must be revealed. The secrets will be unveiled. So how we would clean up the temple? We will get the list of all the sellouts, and we will adjudicate against them and set things straight. That's how we're going to clean up the temple. Some people are going to jail under Moroccan law through the WRC, the Wazir Regional Council. the world is going to have to deal with the Wazir Regional Council. This is a warning. I'm letting y'all know ahead of time. The Wazir Regional Council is coming. We've already cleaned it up. We're getting ready to enact it now. And then we're bringing in the Regional Supreme Council, Supreme Court, which is the judicial organ of the Wazir Regional Council. And what is the Wazir Regional Council? I've already explained it. It's all our states coming together as one. That's a lot of power. It's no different than NATO or the BRICS. These are regional agencies, international organizations, on paper with the pen, documented, that other states become parts of, that are invited or they accede to, however they establish whatever respective conventions that they may have. Our convention, all the Moroccan state governments, the member states would have to accede to this convention to be a part of the convention upon recognition by the recognized states. And every state that accedes to this convention, their wazir become council members as well. It's a lot of wazirs. Keep it in mind that me as the Prime Minister of AMPAG, I have authority over Joe Biden. Dre Bey has authority over Joe Biden. Amir Hassan El has authority over Joe Biden. Akil Bey has authority over Joe Biden. The governors of our respective territories that we have reclaimed, they don't even stand next to us. It's the president that we stand next to. And even they are below us. So imagine all these Moors as wazirs and prime ministers as part of one convention, one council, and you got to deal with them. Good luck, whoever it is, whatever it is, whether it's the United States or anything within it, whatever Black organization, Moorish organization, whatever police, law enforcement agency, nothing will be able to stand the power of the Wazir Regional Council. And the more states come online to become part of the Wazir Regional Council, the more powerful we will become. And eventually we'll take back the seat at the Security Council of the United Nations to oversee the United Nations, which then means that we will be overseeing the entire world. That's how we're going to clean up the temples. People are going to jail. We're going to get the FBI to release the list of all the sellouts. And I guarantee you, I won't be shocked at some of those names.
Bullshit.
But I already know one name that's on there. The Moorish American Society of Philadelphia. Islam, I yield for any other questions, comments, or concerns before we close out.
Islam, this brother Floyd Fears Bay.
Brother Floyd.
HP owner, I'm awake, man. You're keeping me awake. This whole Zoom is keeping me awake. I want to make two quick points and yield. One is my spirit guide is telling me that through observation that there are a great number of Asiatic Moors within Moorish Science Temple of America and outside of the Moorish Science Temple of America that are of the pedigree of the Asiatic Moors that came over with and after George Washington and the 13 colonies. So thus they have a pedigree, they would have a pedigree of being what is obvious. The other point, I want us to marinate on that because not all of the foreigners are pale skinned. The majority are Asiatics.
That's correct.
So the prophet said there's a higher self and a lower self, and you got to watch your lower self, even if it's standing next to you. My other point I wanted to bring up, Wazir, earlier in the Zoom, I think you were waiting for someone to give a second answer to what happened in 1956, other than Eisenhower doing what he did. And the only thing that came to my mind was, I think you were waiting for someone to say something to the effect that I think I heard Jay mention that that when France wanted to do something with the US, it was decided by the ICJ that France had no mores to make certain judgments, and they were already embezzling money from the US. So that's the major reason I understand that Eisenhower shut it down. He didn't shut it down. He was basically ordered to shut it down. I yield the floor.
It was like it was basically ordered to shut it down, and it still wasn't. It was collecting dust, and there was cobwebs everywhere anyway. It wasn't being used. It was. We were supposed to all throughout the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, up until 56, we had the opportunity to use consular court, but we never had that opportunity. We didn't even know that existed. And what Jay was talking about is that they were trying to. So France was trying to stand there square on the fact that they got consular courts, and the judges was basically saying to them that no, you don't. You got Frenchmen in those seats. They're not real Moors. So they rejected that notion. That's what he was referring to.
Islam.
Mm-hmm. Islam. Anyone else got a point of interest or question? Islam. Well, this was an excellent build. Quite a few people was on the line. To close out, just let's be objective. Let's be smart about this. Let's utilize discernment when we read, and let's read everything. Let's not just pick and choose one or two things. Start, especially if you're dealing with the treaties. You want to start with the preamble, and then make your way through. It's very important for us reading things and comprehending what it is that we're reading, concepts of the things that we're reading.
Maybe you're gonna come back in the room.
And we also somebody off mute, y'all. Somebody off mute.
You said why?
Benjamin is always Benjamin. I swear. Okay. So lost my train of thought.
The preamble of the Constitution of the treaties.
You got to read the entire preamble and the subsequent articles that comes with the Constitution. Okay. Which means then we also got to let go of our misconcept. We got to let go of the old paradigm thinking of how to.
Interjection, brother. Interjection, brother. There's a feedback going on.
Yeah, you're fading in and out, brother.
Oh.
Is that coming from you? Let me just double check. Go ahead.
Everyone else is off mute. How do I sound there?
You're clear now, brother.
Okay, great. We got to let go of the old paradigm. We got to let go of the old way of thinking. If you have knowledge as it relates to municipal laws and you're well studied in that area, that's great, right? It doesn't apply. Their laws doesn't apply in Morocco. We're over here. This is Morocco. We have chosen between the entire submission of the laws of the empire. So if you have knowledge over there, you can bring that knowledge over here and utilize it against them, but don't maintain the mindset that those laws are to your salvation, because it's not. The laws that are to your salvation are your laws. When you start doing what? Confessing your own. Prophet Nawaju Ali. Confessing your own means you're writing your own laws. You're no longer begging, marching, and praying for them to enact laws and legislation on your behalf. You're no longer a minority. You have now come to adulthood, meaning that now you are the majority. Our several Moroccan states, the officials and nationals of those states, have come to the majority. We're no longer the minority. We're now confessing our own our flag, and replace the AMPAG study sessions, or our discussions here at AMPAG, we only use reference points. We're showing you, and also Meru State Republic, by the way. That's the other channel that on YouTube that teaches international law and statehood. The other one of the 4 currently recognized states, including AMPAM, Alodia, Moroccan, Palladium, Ante, Michigan. They've been recognized. We just have to get the recognition letter out. So congratulations to AMPAM for their recognition and the hard work and a job well done. They did an excellent job with checking the boxes and integrity of domains. So we won't waste any time in recognizing that. Same goes for any other state that comes online, and check the boxes accordingly, in conformity with the customary norms of international law, period. You can't have it no other way. This is how you're found with full powers in good and due form. That's the language. That's the activity. That's the instructions. Anything outside of that, then we're outside of law. Let's stop being outside of law. Let's get back in law, because it is ourself, law, and master. Islam. So gone are the days of Moors going to jail and losing their houses based on old paradigm processes that may work, but then it may not work. And it never worked because why? Even if it did work for you as an individual, I don't benefit from that win. Your mama don't benefit from that win. Nobody else benefits from that win but you. Therefore, it didn't work. Why? Because your job is to uplift fallen humanity. That means it's supposed to be a collective remedy, not an individual remedy. That's selfish. We have come into a selfish mindset of doing things for self. We're supposed to uplift fallen humanity, keeping in mind that fallen humanity is not limited to just Moors. White people, red people, green people, blue people, all peoples represent fallen humanity. But the only reason why the world has failed is because the Moors have failed. So now we're coming back into full powers. The world will now come back into peace and harmony. Islam. So we gotta go back into the mind. We gotta get back into the mind. We gotta get into the mindset of Luke Skywalker when he finally started believing in himself, only to then defeat Darth Vader. We have to go back. We have to come to the mindset of Neo, who finally came to the point of believing in himself, and now he was able to not only stop bullets by just saying no, but defeating Agent Smith. So who is Agent Smith and who is Darth Vader? The colonists. And what's our power? What's the weapon that's giving us the power? Moroccan law. So we got to believe in Moroccan law, and that Moroccan law will prevail, and that they will acquiesce and submit to our Moroccan laws pursuant to the lease agreements that puts them as the tenants and Morocco as the landlords. Treaty of Peace and Friendship, Treaty of Madrid, and last but not least, the most powerful one of all of them, the Act of Algeciras, which is giving us back full authority over the great enterprise, i.e. the Moroccan Empire, by instituting reforms based upon 3 things: sovereignty and independence, integrity of domains, and then finally, we will then be able to reach economic liberty without any inequality. I yield, Moors. Peace and love. May the blessings of Allah be upon you all. Islam.
Islam.
Islam and peace.
Islam.
Good shadow.
Islam.
Islam. Lord, look at all them people. Peace and love, everybody.